Welcome back, folks. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you a few soldering hacks that I've come to adopt over the years using solder paste. And I always keep a little tub of solder paste around just for these purposes. And it mostly has to do with mounting components on a board. So this board here is an analog board. It's got two digital to analog converters and two analog to digital converters on it, and an access port on the side here. And this plugs into a computer system that I have, but I rapidly built up one of each and tested it out, and I found out that it needed a bodge wire. So I've actually got another revision coming. This is the whole, going directly to PC board as prototype. It's a great idea. It's the best way. Anyway, so what I'm going to do though is I'm going to complete this board, because just with the addition of this bodge wire, this is complete. So I'm going to build this up. I'm going to put in the second digital to analog converter here. But one of the problems, like you go to put something like this in now, other than bending the pins over, which I hate to do because it just makes getting the component out later, if you want to, so much harder. There's no way to keep that in there. Like it just keeps falling out when you turn it over to try and solder it. So here's my first little hack is to take a bit of solder paste on a toothpick here, and then go over to one of the leads here. We'll just use this one, and put the solder paste on there where the pad is. Try to get it right into the hole. Sometimes it's a little bit sloppy, but get right into the hole there. Okay, and then you put the IC socket in, or the component, and you can hold it in place, and then come over here with your soldering iron and melt that solder on there. And you go around and clean up all the rest of that nasty stuff there. And now your socket's in place, so you can go ahead with the rest of your soldering, right? And it's in the place that you wanted to put it. So here's another example. We'll try this potentiometer here. These are also difficult to get in, although they do fit in such a way that because they're so tall, you can get the bore down on them. But then they can get a little bit crooked and sideways and all that when you're. So again, it's exactly the same procedure. Get a little bit of solder paste. Choose a pin. Dab the solder paste on there. Put your component in and hold it in place while you and now your component is soldered in, and you can go ahead with the rest of the leads. So it's like having a third hand, or a fourth hand even in some cases. Now there's another way you can use this as well, and I use this quite often, is like components like this, which I want to have sitting up nice and straight, like this resistor here, right? Now if you turn that upside down and try to solder it again, it could fall out and get off to one side, and it just gets a little bit messy. But what you can do, and it might be a little bit tricky, I should have done this before I did the socket, but it's okay, it's the very same thing, except for you put the solder on the top side. Now this will only work with boards that have plated through holes. And put your component in, put down to where you want it, and then just dab your iron over there onto the solder paste. Oh, I buggered that up, didn't I? Okay, and then you just straighten it out. And there you have it, right? So yeah, you could solder either way, from the top of the board with plated through holes, or from the bottom of the board, and it just gives you a nice way to do it. It's again blue tack and tape and all that other sort of stuff. You can just motor right along and get things done fairly quickly. Okay, I'll leave this aside so I can finish assembling it. Now, the other hack has got to do with surface mount components. So what I got to do here is I'm going to mount up. There's 5 resistors here that I have to mount up. So I'm going to mount those up with the solder paste, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then I'll show you a really easy, inexpensive way to reflow that solder without having to buy an oven or anything special, a hot plate or anything like that. Okay, I've got all these resistors mounted up with a little bit of solder paste under them. Now, when you're doing this sort of thing, you need just enough solder paste. And I always say a little bit too little is better than a little bit too much. Now, in some cases, some of these ones, I might have a little bit too much. I will see the effects of that when we go upstairs now to do the reflow. Okay, so here's the setup. Now, what you need is one of these glass top radiant heat stove tops, not an induction style, but just a regular glass top radiant heat stove top. And you place your PC board right in the center of one of the main burners here, just on a little piece of aluminum here. And then we turn up the burner to high, and we just wait for that solder to reflow. So we put our eyes down on it, and as soon as it reflows, we back the tin foil off. I hope you guys can actually see that. I can't really see what the camera's seeing, but I think I've got things lined up enough. Now first you'll see the flux will begin to bubble a little bit, and then very shortly thereafter the solder will reflow. It is a little like watching grass grow, but I think the results are better. I'm not much of a lawn guy. Here we go. Things are starting to happen now. All right, so reflow is occurring and is complete. Just move that off and turn off the burner. Okay, so that has reflowed pretty nicely. So it doesn't look like I got too much solder on anywhere. I just cleaned off some of the flux. Now the back of this one here, this top resistor there, it looks like that may need a little bit of a touch up, but I measured it with a meter and it's fine. But once you got at least one end tacked on, you can just touch it up with a soldering iron, and it works out pretty good. I'm not getting a good focus here. And yeah, so this is the one here I'm talking about. This one right there. That one maybe need a touch up, but it measures okay. So it's connected up just fine. So that's it. I mean, you don't need to buy yourself a reflow oven. You don't need to buy yourself a hot plate. And it's a heck of a lot easier than doing it with a soldering iron only. So yeah, so there's a few little hacks using solder paste. Keep some around. It can help you do a better job of soldering. Thanks for joining me, guys. Bye.